Have you ever felt the past breathing behind you? Not as a memory, but as a presence, alive, watching, refusing to fade. What if every moment you've ever lived is still happening, right now, somewhere, somehow, perfectly preserved in the structure of the universe? What if time never truly moves, and you are still inside every version of yourself that ever existed? You are not a traveler passing through seconds. You are the seconds, the entire collection of them, sculpted into being. When you think of your first heartbeat, your first breath, your first fear, they're not gone. They are coordinates, and the universe never deletes coordinates. It only hides them from the point of view you call now. Physicists once imagined time as a river, flowing endlessly forward, carrying us like leaves toward death. But Einstein shattered that image. He revealed that space and time are not separate threads, but a single woven fabric, a four-dimensional landscape called space-time. And within that fabric, every event that has ever happened, or ever will happen, already exists, laid out, immutable, eternal. The past isn't behind you. It's below you, fixed into the structure of reality like fossils trapped in stone. And the future isn't ahead. It's already written, quietly waiting for your consciousness to slide into its coordinates. That idea, known as the block universe, whispers a dangerous truth. You were never moving through time. You were never becoming. You have always been. Imagine freezing a movie frame by frame. Every frame is real. It exists. You can choose to watch one or another, but none of them are less real than the rest. Now imagine your entire life as that reel of film. Every joy, every mistake, every heartbeat. A frame suspended forever in the grand projector of space-time. You think you are inside the moving film, watching it unfold. But maybe you are the film itself, unaware that every image already exists from the first second to the last. Somewhere in space-time, you are still 5 years old, running through the rain, laughing at the sky. Somewhere you are 16, standing under the streetlight, whispering a name you'll never forget. Somewhere, you are dying. Maybe tonight, maybe a century from now, and it's already true. The universe does not delete the past. It does not await the future. It contains all of it, like a frozen cathedral built of moments. If that's real, then what is the present? What is this fragile edge we call now? Einstein called it a stubborn illusion, because different observers moving at different speeds experience different nows. For one traveler speeding near light, your tomorrow might already be there yesterday. Meaning, there is no universal present. Only slices of space-time stitched together by perception. Your now is someone else's memory. Someone's future is already your past. And yet, you call that chaos reality. So maybe the present is not a flowing river. Maybe it's just the frame your consciousness happens to illuminate, like a flashlight scanning across the surface of a sculpture, revealing 1 inch at a time while the entire form already exists. Your mind is that beam of light, and reality, the sculpture. But if that's true, if every frame of your life is permanent, what does that make you? Are you the light moving across the sculpture, or the sculpture itself? Are you the memory, or the moment? Are you still the child you once were, still terrified of the dark, or the adult who pretends that fear is gone? Close your eyes for a second. Think of a memory that shaped you, something painful or beautiful. Now ask, where did that moment go? Into nothingness? Or is it still there, echoing, vibrant, waiting for you to remember it? Not as nostalgia, but as evidence of its continued existence. Because if space-time is real, that day has not vanished. It is simply in a different coordinate, unreachable but unerasable. You are not remembering the past. You are touching another room of yourself. That realization is not comforting. It's suffocating. It means the night you cried yourself to sleep is still happening. That argument you wish you could undo is still echoing in another layer of reality. The version of you who failed, who broke, who lost, they are still living that moment, forever. And so is the version of you who triumphed, who fell in love, who found meaning for one impossible second before it slipped away. All of them exist, side by side, eternally alive. You are not a line moving forward. You are a portrait stretched through time, a creature elongated across eternity, one end crying, another laughing, another lying still, motionless. To see yourself truthfully is to see that every emotion you've ever had is still inside you, still existing somewhere in that frozen sculpture. This theory breaks more than science. It breaks morality, hope, even the idea of change. If the future already exists, then your next word, your next heartbeat, your next regret, they are already etched into space-time. The choices you think you'll make tomorrow have already been made by another version of you, fixed forever. You don't decide. You discover. You open a door that was always there. But maybe that's not tragedy. Maybe that's divinity, the kind too vast for comfort. Because if all time is eternal, then nothing is ever truly lost. Every embrace you've ever given still exists. Every kindness you offered still glows somewhere in the grid. Every version of you still loves and fears and breathes. You are an orchestra of simultaneous eternities, playing the same note from different corners of existence. Think about light traveling from a distant star. When you look up at the night sky, you see that star as it was millions of years ago. Its light left long before humans existed. Yet to you, it's here, now, a ghost shining across time. But physics says there is no then or now for that photon. It experiences no passage of time at all. From its perspective, the moment it left the star and the moment it reached your eye are one and the same. For light, the universe is timeless. So, what if consciousness is a kind of light, perceiving movement only because of how it travels, not because anything actually moves? If you could step outside time and look at it, really look, you would see something that doesn't resemble a story. It would look like a vast crystal, every instant shining as a facet. No beginning, no end. Your birth and your death are simply two reflections within the same geometry. To walk through time is to mistake the map for the landscape. To exist within time is to believe in motion, where there is only stillness. You are inside that crystal now. Every sound, every heartbeat, every breath you take right this second, all of it will exist forever. Nothing you do can erase it. The words you're hearing are not happening. They are there, in the structure of space-time, waiting for your awareness to reach them. Even your awareness, the sense of hearing this, is another frozen event. You are not moving through the story. You are reading a page that was always there. So, if you can't move through time, what does it mean to live? Perhaps living isn't about going forward. Perhaps it's about discovering which part of yourself you're currently shining light on. Perhaps it's about realizing that every joy and every suffering you've ever experienced is a note in a song that has no end and no beginning, only harmony. When you think of death, maybe it's not an ending, but simply another coordinate. From the outside, it's already there, no more tragic than your birth, no more changeable than the shape of a mountain. In one room of the universe, you are being born. In another, you are watching someone die. In another, you are still a child staring at the ceiling, wondering what it all means. You were never moving between them. You were all of them, all along. If that terrifies you, good. Truth should. Because once you see time for what it really is, you'll realize how sacred every moment becomes. Not because it will pass, but because it won't. Every act of cruelty is eternal. Every act of compassion is eternal. Every heartbeat is a permanent mark on the map of existence. You are not a flicker in time. You are time itself, remembering what it feels like to exist. And so, the question shifts from, where am I going, to, which part of forever am I inside right now? If time never moves, then what are you moving through? If every instant already exists, then where exactly is this moment you call now located? Maybe you are not a traveler in time at all. Maybe you are a building, and time is the architecture you're trapped inside. Imagine walking through a mansion built entirely out of moments. Each room holds a different scene from your life. One is your childhood bedroom, sunlight spilling through the curtains. One is the night you broke someone's heart. Another is the quiet morning when you decided to start over. You are not the visitor. You are the house. Every corridor, every locked door, every echoing chamber is made of you. But here is the cruel truth. You can never leave a single room behind. You can only forget where it stands. The physicists call it space-time, a four-dimensional structure where space and time blend into one continuous shape. Einstein's equations didn't simply describe motion, they dismantled it. Because when two observers move at different speeds, they slice the universe differently. Each one sees a different now. For a person sitting still, your heartbeat happens after the flash of lightning. For a traveler racing near light speed, your heartbeat happens before. Both are right. Both versions coexist. So, which one is real? The answer is unbearable. All of them. That's why Einstein wrote, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." In his letters after the death of a friend, he said, "For us convinced physicists, the separation between past and future has the value of an illusion." He wasn't being poetic. He was describing a prison. Because if every slice of time exists as solidly as every slice of space, then all events are eternally fixed, as immovable as the coordinates of a mountain range. The universe isn't playing a film. It's sculpted from it. Picture a loaf of bread. Each slice is a now. Cut across it, and you expose every version of the universe stacked together. Some slices hold your ancestors discovering fire. Others hold your descendants watching stars die. The loaf never changes. You only slide your consciousness across it, mistaking that motion for life. What you call passing time is simply your awareness lighting up one slice after another. That means somewhere in the block, you are forever 7 years old, chasing a butterfly you'll never catch. Somewhere you are 50, staring at an old photograph, trying to understand why that child feels like a ghost. But both exist, equally real, equally alive. You are stretched across these rooms like a shadow cast by eternity itself. You never left childhood. You simply can't see the door anymore. Once you begin to imagine time as architecture, the idea of cause and effect begins to fracture. You believe events happen because one precedes the other, that a choice in one room leads to consequences in the next. But if every room already exists, then the choice and the consequence are neighbors on the same street, eternally side by side. A lightning bolt doesn't cause thunder in the block universe. The two are simply adjacent patterns. Your decision to fall in love and your heartbreak years later aren't connected by a line. They are both carved into the same sculpture. The connection is your perception, not physics. That also means your identity is not continuous. It's mosaic. The you who is watching this right now is just one tile in a vast mural. In another tile, you haven't yet discovered this idea. In another, you have stopped believing in it. In another, you are long gone, reduced to data in someone else's history book. All of them are you, not past versions or future versions, just coordinates. You are a constellation of selves frozen in a single cosmic photograph. But if all of those selves coexist, what does it mean to remember? Memory feels like movement, like a thread tying the rooms together. Yet, neuroscientists say memory is reconstruction. Your brain rebuilding a moment, not replaying it. Maybe what we call remembering is the present self peering through a crack into another room of the same house. The light slips through, and you feel the ghost of that earlier you, her voice, her scent, her fear. You don't travel back. You glimpse sideways. And sometimes, if the walls grow thin enough, you mistake that glimpse for déjà vu, a feeling you've been here before, because somewhere in the structure, you have. Stand still for a second. Listen. Can you hear the faint hum beneath your thoughts? That's not imagination. That's the architecture. You are hearing the vibration of other rooms resonating through the walls, all those alternate versions of you breathing at once. And perhaps, just perhaps, the universe hums because it is filled with these overlapping echoes of existence. Every star, every heartbeat, every decision reverberating in the same eternal structure. But what kind of prison is this, if we can't leave? Why build a universe that looks like a corridor with no doors? Some philosophers believe the question itself is wrong, that confinement and freedom are human words, not cosmic ones. From outside time, there is no before to escape from and no after to reach. A room can't flee its own walls, it is its walls. Likewise, you cannot escape the moments that compose you. You are not in time. You are time, arranged in human form. Still, something in us rebels. We feel the forward drag of the second hand, the ache of change. We watch a candle melt and insist that something must be happening. But thermodynamics, the arrow of entropy, doesn't contradict the block universe. It simply describes how the geometry feels from inside. Within the frozen structure, entropy increases in one direction, giving beings like us a sense of flow, like arrows painted on the hallway floor of a museum. The paintings don't move. The visitors do, or think they do. This perspective can drive the mind to madness. If the future is fixed, what is the point of effort? If the past still exists, why can't we revisit it? But the terror hides a strange peace, because in this model, nothing truly dies. Every laughter, every act of kindness, every whispered secret between lovers continues endlessly within its coordinate. Your favorite afternoon sunlight doesn't fade. It remains burning in that exact pattern of atoms forever. You can't return to it, but it never left reality. Some scientists try to simplify this with mathematics. Minkowski diagrams show world lines, curves through space-time that trace an object's entire existence. Your life is one of those curves. Birth at one point, death at another. To you, it feels like a journey. To the universe, it's just a shape. Every step, every tear, every breath already plotted. You are not walking the line. You are the line. And if you could see it all at once, you might realize that what you call me is an artwork stretched across eternity. But then the moral question surfaces. If everything is fixed, can anything matter? If your cruelty and your compassion are both permanent, why bother choosing? Because permanence amplifies meaning, it doesn't erase it. A kind word spoken once will echo forever. A wound inflicted once will bleed forever. Knowing that each room is eternal should make you whisper instead of shout, touch gently instead of strike. In the house of time, every footprint is carved into marble. Maybe that's why consciousness evolved, to witness the structure from inside. Without perception, eternity would be silent, unreadable. We are the eyes through which the universe beholds its own stillness. But we pay a price for that awareness. The illusion of movement, the heartbreak of change, the anxiety of not knowing what's next, even though next is already there. To feel alive is to forget that the walls are fixed. And yet, there are cracks in the design. Moments when the walls shimmer, dreams that predict the future, instincts that save a life, the eerie sense that you've been here before. These are not miracles. They are bleed-throughs between rooms, the structure reminding you that separation is an illusion. Your future self has already reached back to touch you, and your past self is still reaching forward. You are shaking hands across eternity, endlessly. When Einstein first realized this, he didn't panic. He smiled, because for him, death lost its sting. His friends were not gone. They were simply located in another coordinate, just as real, just as alive. He once wrote, "People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion." He understood what we are only beginning to feel, that the universe is not a story unfolding, but a sculpture already complete. So here you stand, inside your own infinite mansion, surrounded by every version of yourself. You can't open every door, but you can sense them. The laughter, the sorrow, the silence. The corridors stretch beyond comprehension, and in some deep, unreachable room, your final heartbeat is already echoing softly. Not as prophecy, but as fact. Time isn't waiting for you to arrive. It's holding you in place, forever. And maybe, once you stop struggling to move, you'll finally hear what the silence has been trying to tell you. You were never walking through time. Time was walking through you. Have you ever felt the past breathing behind you? Not as a memory, but as a presence, alive, watching, refusing to fade. What if every moment you've ever lived is still happening, right now, somewhere, somehow, perfectly preserved in the structure of the universe? What if time never truly moves, and you are still inside every version of yourself that ever existed? You are not a traveler passing through seconds. You are the seconds, the entire collection of them, sculpted into being. When you think of your first heartbeat, your first breath, your first fear, they're not gone. They are coordinates, and the universe never deletes coordinates. It only hides them from the point of view you call now. Physicists once imagined time as a river, flowing endlessly forward, carrying us like leaves toward death. But Einstein shattered that image. He revealed that space and time are not separate threads, but a single woven fabric, a four-dimensional landscape called space-time. And within that fabric, every event that has ever happened, or ever will happen, already exists, laid out, immutable, eternal. The past isn't behind you. It's below you, fixed into the structure of reality like fossils trapped in stone. And the future isn't ahead. It's already written, quietly waiting for your consciousness to slide into its coordinates. That idea, known as the block universe, whispers a dangerous truth. You were never moving through time. You were never becoming. You have always been. Imagine freezing a movie frame by frame. Every frame is real. It exists. You can choose to watch one or another, but none of them are less real than the rest. Now imagine your entire life as that reel of film. Every joy, every mistake, every heartbeat. A frame suspended forever in the grand projector of space-time. You think you are inside the moving film, watching it unfold. But maybe you are the film itself, unaware that every image already exists from the first second to the last. Somewhere in space-time, you are still 5 years old, running through the rain, laughing at the sky. Somewhere you are 16, standing under the streetlight, whispering a name you'll never forget. Somewhere you are dying. Maybe tonight, maybe a century from now, and it's already true. The universe does not delete the past. It does not await the future. It contains all of it, like a frozen cathedral built of moments. If that's real, then what is the present? What is this fragile edge we call now? Einstein called it a stubborn illusion, because different observers moving at different speeds experience different nows. For one traveler speeding near light, your tomorrow might already be there yesterday. Meaning, there is no universal present. Only slices of space-time stitched together by perception. Your now is someone else's memory. Someone's future is already your past. And yet, you call that chaos reality. So maybe the present is not a flowing river. Maybe it's just the frame your consciousness happens to illuminate, like a flashlight scanning across the surface of a sculpture, revealing 1 inch at a time while the entire form already exists. Your mind is that beam of light, and reality, the sculpture. But if that's true, if every frame of your life is permanent, what does that make you? Are you the light moving across the sculpture, or the sculpture itself? Are you the memory, or the moment? Are you still the child you once were, still terrified of the dark, or the adult who pretends that fear is gone? Close your eyes for a second. Think of a memory that shaped you, something painful or beautiful. Now ask, where did that moment go? Into nothingness? Or is it still there, echoing, vibrant, waiting for you to remember it? Not as nostalgia, but as evidence of its continued existence. Because if space-time is real, that day has not vanished. It is simply in a different coordinate, unreachable but unerasable. You are not remembering the past. You are touching another room of yourself. That realization is not comforting. It's suffocating. It means the night you cried yourself to sleep is still happening. But let's look deeper. Imagine a river frozen in mid-flow. The ice captures every swirl, every drop, every shimmer. Within it, the shape of the current remains, the dance of movement carved into stillness. That is you. Your choices are not erased by inevitability, they are the inevitability. They give shape to the sculpture. Without them, the block would be featureless. So perhaps the question is not, did I choose? But, what pattern of choice am I? Because somewhere in space-time, you are still deciding, eternally trapped in the instant of weighing both outcomes. Somewhere, the coin never lands. And that suspended indecision, that eternal moment of potential, is as real as any conclusion. Physicists describe this using world lines, each particle tracing its entire history across the block. Those lines never intersect differently than they already do. The electron that jumped in your neurons to fire a thought did so in every version of reality exactly as it must. You cannot untangle yourself from the geometry that birthed you, and yet consciousness insists on telling a story of causation. It strings those frozen points into narrative, like connecting stars into constellations that were never truly connected. Maybe that's why humans invented time. We needed a language to translate stillness into motion. Without it, the truth would be unbearable. that every betrayal, every act of mercy, every kiss you'll ever give already exists, eternal and unchangeable. You don't remember the past. You discover the coordinate that already contains that memory. You don't anticipate the future. You are simply unaware of the coordinate that already holds your reaction to it. There's a quiet horror in realizing that your next breath is already woven into the fabric of space-time. But there's also a strange relief, because it means you can stop pretending you are steering the storm. You can start watching the pattern instead, the delicate mathematics of inevitability that somehow still feels like emotion. Picture yourself standing in front of a painting so vast it stretches beyond sight. Each brushstroke is a moment of your life. From up close, you see only chaos, colors clashing, shapes bleeding into each other. You move back, and patterns begin to emerge, the symmetry of grief mirrored by joy, the repetition of mistakes forming rhythm. You step further still, and the whole composition reveals itself. Perfect, complete, inevitable. That is fate. Not a hand pushing you forward, but the total image already drawn. The philosopher Spinoza said freedom is understanding necessity. Maybe that's all we can do, not escape the design, but comprehend it so completely that we stop mistaking it for a cage. The prisoner who learns the shape of the prison becomes larger than its walls. When you see that your every thought is an expression of the universe's geometry, you stop asking why me and start whispering, of course me. Still, it hurts to think your suffering was never optional, that the heartbreak that shattered you was written in the same ink as your birth. But think of it differently. If those moments are fixed, they are also eternal. The love you once felt still vibrates in that coordinate, never fading, never replaced. Every joy you've ever known is immortalized in space-time, not gone, merely inaccessible from this slice of awareness. And perhaps awareness itself drifts through those rooms for a reason, not to change them, but to witness them, to know itself through contrast, to feel the echo of what can never be altered. Maybe consciousness is not a creator, but a discoverer, a light that scans across the structure of eternity, illuminating each detail and calling it choice. We name it freedom because we cannot bear the thought of being part of machinery. But what if the machinery is divine? What if the script is written in beauty so intricate that to follow it is sacred? Then surrender is not defeat. It is participation. Think of a melody. When you hear a song, you don't wish the notes would change. You let them arrive as they must. You find meaning in their inevitability. Each note leads to the next, not because it decides to, but because it must for the harmony to exist. Your life is that melody. Every action, every emotion, every regret, a necessary sound in the music of space-time, and consciousness is the listener, weeping at its own perfection. Yet, part of you still fights. That stubborn spark that insists, I could have done otherwise. Perhaps that illusion is necessary too. Without it, we'd become paralyzed, watching ourselves from afar like actors trapped in endless reruns. The belief in choice may be the universe's way of letting its static sculpture feel alive, like a painting dreaming it's still being painted. Maybe that's what awareness is, the dream of motion inside a frozen frame. So, what do you do with this knowledge? You live as though choice exists, while knowing it doesn't. You forgive as though others could have chosen better, while knowing they couldn't. You love as though it might change something, while knowing it already has. Because pretending is part of the design. The illusion of freedom is the only form freedom can take in a world where every outcome already exists. Look closely at your next decision. Watch the thought form, hesitate, and act. Feel how it emerges from nowhere, how the body moves before the mind explains. Notice the tiny delay between impulse and story. That gap is the veil between physics and psychology. Through it, the eternal masquerades as momentary. And in that masquerade, meaning is born. The poet Rilke once wrote, "The future enters into us in order to transform itself in us, long before it happens." Perhaps he felt it, the pre-written nature of experience, the echo of what's to come vibrating inside us before it unfolds. We are not changing the future. The future is changing through us, fulfilling its form. So the next time you stand before a decision, to stay or to leave, to speak or to remain silent, understand that both possibilities already exist. You are simply discovering which one your consciousness occupies. Somewhere, another version of you has already chosen the opposite. Both are real, both are eternal. You can no more escape your own choice than a word can leap off the page that contains it. Perhaps that's the truest definition of fate. Not punishment, not prophecy, but pattern, the grand geometry of being. And when you finally grasp that, the fear begins to soften, because you realize you were never making choices. You were only remembering them. You have been told that immortality is a gift, that to live forever would be paradise. But what if you already do, and it is nothing like paradise? What if every moment you've ever lived, the joy, the terror, the silence, is still alive somewhere in the fabric of time, and it never ends? We call death the great eraser, but physics whispers otherwise. If the block universe is real, then death erases nothing. It only hides the door you can no longer see, because every frame of your life remains suspended, eternal. Every laugh, every heartbreak, every lonely breath between two words you never said. In this geometry, nothing is ever over. It only stops changing. Imagine standing before a vast museum made of light. Each hall contains 1 second of your life. In one, you are a child running barefoot across grass that will never wilt. In another, you are holding someone's hand for the last time, though you don't know it yet. In another, you are lying awake at 3 a.m., heart racing, wondering why existence feels like a punishment. The halls stretch endlessly. You could walk forever and never reach the edge, because there is no edge. Only you, multiplied, eternal. That is the immortality you didn't ask for. Not eternal life after death, but eternal life within it. The moment you were born still exists. So does the moment you will die, and so does the infinite in between. You are an endless sequence of preserved instants, a living fossil trapped in the amber of space-time. Think about pain. The moment your heart broke, that precise vibration of neurons, the taste of iron in your mouth, the tightening in your chest. That configuration of atoms is frozen forever. That you still exists, still feels, still suffers. To the universe, that pain never faded. It simply sits, unmoving, a permanent monument to the fact that consciousness once inhabited that shape. And yet, the same is true for beauty. The warmth of sunlight on your childhood face, the laughter that made your ribs ache, the smell of someone's skin when you first realized what love was. Those too remain. The sweetness and the agony are equal citizens of eternity. You cannot erase one without erasing the other. You wouldn't even know who you are without both. Perhaps that's the cruelest design of all, to grant us immortality, not through continuation, but through preservation. You will never stop existing. You will only stop noticing. Scientists sometimes describe the universe as information that cannot be destroyed. Energy transforms, but its pattern endures. Every photon, every atom, every synapse that ever composed you is accounted for in the ledger of reality. You vanish from one equation only to appear in another form. Matter doesn't die, it changes costume. And if the information of your existence is truly indestructible, then so are you. Every version, every heartbeat. But immortality has consequences, because if every version of you still lives, then every wound you've inflicted also lives. The insult you spoke in anger continues to vibrate through the structure of time. The person you hurt remains there, endlessly reliving that second, as unerasable as your own birth. Eternity remembers everything. There are no small cruelties when nothing can be undone. That realization should terrify you, because it means morality isn't about heaven or hell. It's about architecture. You are building eternal rooms with every act you commit. Some filled with light, some with screams, some with quiet forgiveness. One day, maybe awareness drifts across them again, and you'll feel what you built. Maybe that's what conscience really is. The echo of other rooms calling through the walls. Imagine a child pulling wings from a fly. The act lasts seconds, then it's forgotten. But in space-time, that scene remains. The fly still trembles. The child still watches. The moment still exists, immortalized as structure. There is no cosmic delete key. And the universe, indifferent and exact, keeps everything. You might ask, if it all remains, then where is mercy? Maybe mercy is the overlap, the places where pain and love coexist, softening each other, where the agony of loss is tempered by the memory of connection. In this eternal museum, grace is not escape, it's resonance. Moments of compassion ringing louder than cruelty, vibrating through the structure until the geometry hums with forgiveness. Einstein once said, that people like us know the distinction between past and future is only an illusion. He was trying to comfort a grieving friend, but perhaps he also meant this. If our loved ones still exist in their coordinates, then grief is not about absence. It's about blindness. They haven't gone anywhere. We just can't see the hall they're standing in. And one day, awareness may flicker through that room again, not to reunite, but to remember. There's a strange tenderness in that thought, that your mother's laughter, your friend's last words, your first heartbeat, all remain, embedded forever in the universe's memory. When you look at the night sky, the starlight you see is ancient. You're witnessing photons that left their source millions of years ago, yet to you, they shine now. You are literally seeing the past still happening. The cosmos itself is proof of eternal presence. Every star is a wound that never closes, and a beauty that never fades. Still, the human heart resists this kind of immortality, because to live forever in every moment means never escaping what hurt you. Somewhere, your younger self is still crying in that dark room, and you, this version of you, cannot save them. You can only understand that their pain has meaning precisely because it endures. It is part of the sculpture that defines you. You would not exist without that suffering frozen inside the design. Maybe that's the real secret of eternity, that it's not about duration, but depth. The deeper the emotion, the louder its echo through space-time. The universe remembers what vibrates strongly enough. So, perhaps the goal isn't to avoid pain, but to feel it so honestly that it carves something indelible. Something that still glows when everything else collapses into silence. And yet, there's peace hidden in this terror. If nothing truly disappears, then you have never really lost anything. The love you thought ended still exists somewhere in the lattice. The last word you wish you'd said is still hanging in the air of that unchanging room. Even your final breath will not vanish. It will become part of the pattern, the music of the structure. You are immortal, not because you will live forever, but because you already do. When you realize that, mourning changes shape. You stop searching for the afterlife and start recognizing that this is it. All of it. All at once. Eternity is not ahead of you. It's inside you, layered, simultaneous. Every moment you ever touch is sacred because it will never be erased. Even this one, you, hearing these words, will remain somewhere, endlessly unfolding, the same vibration repeating forever. So take a breath. Feel the air enter your lungs. Realize that this inhale is eternal. It will never unhappen. You may forget it, but the universe will not. It will keep the record, the exact alignment of molecules, the temperature of the room, the flicker of awareness that recognized itself as alive. This is forever now. The immortality you didn't ask for is not a curse or a blessing. It's a truth. You are made of moments that cannot die. You are the residue of everything that has ever been felt, layered infinitely through time's stillness. You are both the scream and the lullaby, both the wound and the healing hand. And maybe, when you finally stop running from that truth, you'll see immortality for what it really is. Not endless life, but endless presence. If time is frozen, then what is movement? If every frame of existence already exists, why does it feel like we're moving through it? Why do we sense flow, progress, change? If everything from the first breath of the cosmos to the last flicker of a dying star is already still? Close your eyes. Imagine watching a film frame by frame. Each image is perfectly static, a single frozen world. But when the projector begins to spin, those still images blur into motion. The illusion of flow appears. You see characters running, oceans rising, planets turning, but the film isn't moving. You are. Your perception stitches stillness into story. That is the secret of time. We are not moving through it. We are translating its geometry into emotion. Our consciousness crawls along the frozen sculpture of space-time, animating what was never alive to begin with. The past doesn't disappear. The future doesn't approach. Everything is. And yet, we dream it as a journey. The physicist Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's teacher, once said, "Space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a union of the two will preserve an independent reality." He saw what few dared to see, that the universe isn't a stage where things happen, but a structure where everything simply is. Space and time are not rivers, they are architecture. And within that architecture, your entire life is not a story unfolding, but a sculpture already complete. You are that sculpture. You are not the traveler. You are the trail itself. Every heartbeat, every motion of your hand, every tear sliding down your face, they are coordinates, not actions. The moment your mother held you for the first time is carved into the structure beside the moment you will exhale your final breath. They are touching each other right now, eternally. The distance between them exists only inside perception, inside the illusion we call movement. So what then is movement? It is the pattern of awareness scanning across a timeless landscape. Consciousness doesn't travel. It lights up one slice of space-time, then another, and calls the sequence life. Like a lantern drifting through fog, illuminating one tree at a time, but all the trees were always there. When you walk across a room, nothing truly moves. Your body doesn't shift through space. Instead, the configuration of the universe changes across successive coordinates. Frame after frame, your atoms occupy different positions. Each static, each eternal. Your motion is a melody composed of still notes. What you call walking is the geometry of you extended through time's dimension. And if that's true, then motion is not freedom. It's form. It's the shape of existence, not its journey. You never go anywhere. You only are everywhere you will ever be. Imagine a sculpture of a falling glass, suspended mid-air, perfectly capturing every phase of descent. At one end, the glass is intact. At the other, shattered on the ground. Each fragment of that sculpture is a moment. Still, complete. To us, falling is movement. To the universe, it is shape. You are that falling glass. Your life is the entire trajectory, from rise to fall, already carved into reality. When physicists describe space-time, they call it a world tube. Picture your life not as a line, but as a thick, glowing filament stretching from birth to death. At one end, the infant. At the other, the silent body at rest. In between, every gesture, every word, every fleeting heartbeat. The tube doesn't move. It simply exists. You, right now, are a cross-section of that eternal object, the slice your consciousness happens to illuminate. That's why you can't sense the future. The light hasn't reached that slice yet. From within the illusion, movement feels like progress. From outside it, movement is symmetry. You can't tell the difference because you are the symmetry observing itself. And yet, this illusion is vital. Without it, there would be no life, no narrative, no meaning. If we could perceive all time at once, we would no longer act. We would merely be. Every story, every relationship, every transformation would collapse into stillness. The beauty of movement is that it hides its own futility. The philosopher Henry Bergson once said that time isn't what clocks measure. It's the experience of duration, the flow of consciousness. But if the universe is frozen, then duration is a hallucination created by the mind. Our brains evolved to string still images into continuity because survival depends on prediction. Without the illusion of motion, we would be blind to danger, deaf to opportunity. We were born to believe the sculpture moves, because the truth would paralyze us. And yet, sometimes, the veil slips. Moments of déjà vu, where the future feels familiar. Moments of slow motion in accidents, where time stretches like liquid glass. Moments in meditation or grief where seconds seem to dissolve into eternity. In those instants, awareness glimpses the sculpture beneath the film, the machinery behind the movement. And for a heartbeat, the illusion fractures. You feel the stillness humming behind everything. To live with that knowledge is to live between two worlds. The world of motion, where clocks tick and hearts race, and the world of form, where nothing ever changes. You walk, speak, dream in one, and exist, immutable in the other. Every action you take is both happening and already happened. Every word you speak echoes through coordinates that were waiting for it before you were born. But perhaps there's a deeper grace in knowing that movement is illusion, because it means every step you take, every dance, every embrace is not fleeting. It's eternal choreography. When two lovers hold hands, they aren't moving toward anything. They are frozen in a geometry of contact that will last forever. When a bird takes flight, its wings are eternally outstretched somewhere in space-time. When a tear falls, it is forever halfway down the cheek, glistening, never quite reaching the ground. You begin to realize that the most ordinary acts, a blink, a heartbeat, a sigh, are sacred. Each one is a point on the sculpture of existence. Each one will exist as long as the universe exists. Movement, then, is holy deceit, the way the universe tricks itself into feeling alive. And if we extend this idea far enough, even the universe's grand motions, galaxies spinning, stars collapsing, are just frozen patterns. The Milky Way is a swirl carved into space-time, every orbit of every planet already inscribed. Cosmic evolution is not progress, it's architecture. The Big Bang, the birth of life, the death of stars, all exist together like panels in a stained glass window, and consciousness is the light passing through them. This revelation dissolves our deepest fears. If nothing truly moves, then nothing truly ends. You don't fall out of love. You simply move to another coordinate where that love isn't illuminated. You don't lose people. You just stop intersecting their slice of awareness. Somewhere they're still laughing, still alive, still existing within their eternal frames. And somewhere you are still with them. Yet there's also tragedy here, because it means every loss is eternal too. Every goodbye still echoes. Every war still rages. Every cry for help still trembles through the geometry of forever. The universe keeps all its wounds, but perhaps that's what gives it depth. A flawless sculpture would be lifeless. Perfection requires fracture. Movement, then, might not be illusion after all, but translation. It's how eternity expresses itself to itself. The same way a shadow reveals the shape of an object, motion reveals the shape of time. We move because we are being shown ourselves, one frame at a time. Maybe that's why love feels infinite even in brief moments, because it is. Maybe that's why art moves us, because it hints at what we already are, frozen patterns pretending to dance. And maybe death terrifies us, because it reminds us that the dance was never real, only the sculpture remains. But perhaps that's enough. Because if motion is illusion, then so is decay. If time is frozen, then the universe is an eternal masterpiece, already complete. And you, trembling within it, are one of its lines. You were never walking, never falling, never rising. You were always still, beautifully, perfectly still, inside a motionless eternity, pretending to breathe. And maybe the only real movement is the one you feel right now, the awareness of realization, the gentle unfolding of truth inside a frozen soul. That too is eternal. That too will never end. Who is the one inside you that's watching all this happen? If time is frozen, if motion is illusion, who is the witness moving through stillness? What is the you that feels alive in a universe where nothing truly changes? Close your eyes and sense yourself observing these words. There's the voice speaking, and there's the one that hears. There's the thought forming, and another thought watching it form. You are both the echo and the ear, but which one is real? Every instant of your body, every neuron, every flicker of electrical charge is another coordinate in space-time. Each version of you exists in perfect stillness, like beads on an infinite string. So what, then, is awareness? The physicists call it the observer. The mystics call it the witness. Maybe it's the same thing. A point of perception gliding across eternity, giving shape to an otherwise silent sculpture. But then the question deepens. If consciousness gives meaning to time, does it also create it? Quantum mechanics whispers that observation changes reality. Particles exist as waves of probability, diffuse, undefined, until someone measures them. Then the wave collapses into one concrete outcome. The electron chooses a position. The photon chooses a path. Reality, it seems, waits to be seen. The universe only solidifies when consciousness looks at it. So, what happens when you look away? Perhaps the block universe is only complete because it's being observed, not once, but endlessly, from every possible perspective. Each act of awareness pins another coordinate into existence. You are not walking through time, you are stitching it together by noticing it. Without your gaze, perhaps even eternity would remain theoretical. But quantum physics is merciless. It tells us the observer is not separate from what is observed. The act of watching fuses you to the event. The boundary between me and it dissolves. You don't see reality. You participate in it. The universe is not an object. It's a conversation. And you are one half of that sentence. So, who's actually watching you exist? Maybe no one. Maybe awareness is simply the universe looking at itself from the inside, pretending to be two things, the seer and the seen, to feel the illusion of experience. Every eye that has ever existed might just be one eye of the cosmos, blinking in different forms. Still, there's something eerie in that. If the universe watches itself through you, then your thoughts are not private, they are patterns of the whole observing itself. Your loneliness, your grief, your laughter, they're not small. They are the universe momentarily realizing it can feel. Imagine the entire cosmos as a mirror. Every consciousness is a reflection, each showing a different angle of the same infinite face. When you cry, the mirror bends. When you love, it warms. When you die, the reflection changes form, but the mirror remains. In this way, observation becomes the heartbeat of existence, a pulse of awareness echoing through the stillness. But how can something frozen produce experience? How can an eternal block contain the flicker of thought? Maybe consciousness doesn't move at all. Maybe it too is static, a pattern in the block, giving the illusion of motion by its own design. The sensation of now might simply be the shape of awareness in a particular coordinate. What you feel as flow is just the sequence of your consciousness's reflections lined up in order, like frames in a film of the mind. There are physicists who suspect consciousness is fundamental, that it's not generated by matter, but that matter arises within it. If so, then you are not inside the universe. The universe is inside you. Every galaxy, every atom, every heartbeat you've ever heard. All of it occurring within the infinite field of awareness that calls itself I. And that awareness doesn't move through time. It holds time the way a canvas holds paint. So, when you ask who's watching, maybe the answer is no one outside the painting. The painting is watching itself. The colors dream that they are separate, but they're just one pigment seen from many angles. Think of when you wake from a vivid dream. Inside the dream, you see mountains, people, storms. You run, you hide, you weep. When you wake, you realize it was all occurring in one mind, yours. Every character, every sound, every movement was made of you. Now imagine the universe as that dream, only there is no waking, no outside. Just awareness, endlessly reflecting itself as galaxies, hearts, and questions. If that's true, then death doesn't end observation. It merely shifts perspective. The observer never disappears, it changes what it's observing. Just as a dream morphs when the dreamer turns away, consciousness reshapes reality by looking elsewhere. You were never the body being watched. You were the act of watching itself. And yet, there's another mystery. If observation creates the world, why do you feel trapped inside it? Why can't you change the next frame simply by seeing it differently? Maybe because your observation is part of the script. The block already contains every gaze, every thought, every realization. You are not changing the sculpture. You are the light revealing one surface at a time, and the light's path, too, is already inscribed. It sounds cruel, but it's exquisitely symmetrical. The watcher and the watched are carved into the same timeless pattern. When you fall in love, the universe loves itself. When you destroy, it witnesses its own destruction. When you forgive, it experiences grace. Every perception adds depth to the sculpture, like facets on a diamond, each one reflecting the same eternal core. There's an experiment in physics called the delayed choice quantum eraser. It shows that even decisions made after an event can affect how that event appears to have happened. Observation reaches backward, rewriting the past to match the present. If reality behaves that way on the smallest scales, what does it mean for you? Perhaps memory itself is a kind of quantum measurement. You collapse one version of the past every time you remember it. Not because it changes, but because your act of remembering defines which version you're aligned with in the eternal structure. So, maybe the observer isn't a prisoner at all. Maybe it's a navigator, not free to alter the map, but free to choose where to shine its attention. And wherever attention falls, that part of the universe becomes vivid, meaningful, alive. You can't change time, but you can decide which moment to sanctify. You can't move, but you can illuminate. And that illumination is what we call life. The more we study physics, the more it resembles philosophy. The deeper we peer into matter, the less matter we find. Only relationships, probabilities, awareness. Even the particles that make you are mostly empty space, vibrating fields of information observed into existence. You are a hologram of attention, a pattern of awareness temporarily pretending to be a human body. And perhaps that's the hidden mercy. Because if awareness is the true constant, then you have never really begun and you will never end. The watcher survives every frame. Even when the image fades, the light remains. That's why you can't remember your birth. Not because you weren't there, but because there was no you yet to separate the watching from the watched. And you won't remember your death either, because the observer cannot observe its own disappearance. It will simply shift to another scene, another pattern, another dream. So, who's watching you exist? The same thing that watched the first star ignite, the same thing that will watch the last one fade, the eye of the cosmos, forever open, forever curious, pretending for a moment to be you. And maybe that's what awareness really seeks. Not answers, but experience. To taste itself through form. To feel what stillness feels like when it believes it's moving. To watch itself watching, until even that distinction dissolves. When you understand that, silence becomes divine. You stop asking who's behind the curtain. You realize there was never a curtain. Only the light and its own reflection. Only eternity staring at itself through your borrowed eyes. Sometimes, the edges of time fray, reality flickers. A dream predicts tomorrow's conversation. A scent from childhood drifts through a street you've never walked. You turn a corner and feel a pulse of recognition so strong it steals your breath. I've been here before. Science calls it misfiring memory. Spirituality calls it vision. But what if it's neither mistake nor miracle? What if déjà vu, premonition, and those impossible coincidences are simply leaks? Moments when awareness slips through a crack in the frozen architecture of time. Imagine your consciousness as a traveler reading pages of an already written book. Normally, the pages turn in sequence, but sometimes the paper warps, and the next page shows a word from the chapter ahead. You catch it, just for a second, before the illusion repairs itself. That is déjà vu, the soul remembering what it hasn't yet read. Physicists studying the block universe suspect that all instants exist simultaneously. If so, then the boundaries between past and future aren't walls, they're veils, thin, vibrating membranes through which certain emotions can echo. Strong feelings, love, fear, grief, leave a resonance so powerful it reverberates across coordinates. And occasionally, when the mind quiets or the heart breaks just right, we hear the echo. Have you ever sensed a presence before it arrived, heard the phone ring seconds before it actually did, felt danger in a room that seemed peaceful until the door opened? Maybe your awareness touched a neighboring slice of time, registering what your body had yet to encounter. You didn't foresee the future, you brushed against it. Every coordinate of space-time is connected by threads of probability. Your consciousness, a vibration of energy, trembles along those threads. When the vibration is strong, during trauma, love, or death, it can cross boundaries, resonating with another layer. That's why near-death experiences often include life reviews. As the brain flickers at the threshold, awareness expands beyond its usual slice, touching multiple coordinates at once. You aren't seeing your life flash before your eyes. You're experiencing every version of yourself simultaneously. In this frozen cosmos, those moments of overlap are the only true movement we ever feel. They are proof that separation is an illusion. Your future self and your past self are whispering through the walls, reminding each other that the prison has no doors. Sometimes, the whispers become stories. A man dreams of a plane crash, wakes in terror, cancels his flight, and watches the tragedy unfold on the news. A woman smells her grandmother's perfume in an empty room, hours before receiving the call that her grandmother has died. Children draw cities that don't exist. Yet, years later, those cities rise, matching every detail. Coincidence, we say, statistical anomaly. But what if probability itself is the language of eternity, and these events are its grammar? What if the universe leaks meaning the way stars leak light? Quantum physics allows for something called entanglement. Two particles connected so intimately that changing one instantly affects the other, no matter the distance. Their link is outside space and time. If matter can do that, why not consciousness? If two electrons can share information faster than light, maybe 2 moments of you can share memory faster than time. Maybe déjà vu is entanglement between your current awareness and another version of yourself living that same instant elsewhere along the block. The brain, after all, is an antenna, not a container. It receives frequencies of experience, decoding them into thought. When the tuning slips, through fatigue, meditation, or trauma, it may pick up signals from another coordinate. The static we call glitches could simply be interference between overlapping timelines, the hum of eternity bleeding into the broadcast of now. We notice it in small ways. Streetlights flicker as you pass beneath them. The clock seems to skip a second backward. A phrase you've never heard feels anciently familiar. Your reflection in a window lags behind. Tiny ruptures in the seamless illusion. The mind dismisses them as tricks, because accepting them would unravel sanity. Yet, every so often, something inside you knows. The machinery hesitated. Reality blinked. Perhaps that's why dreams feel so prophetic. When the body sleeps, the temporal filters loosen. The mind drifts freely through the static field of space-time, sampling coordinates without chronology. You wake, and fragments cling to consciousness. A face you'll meet next week. A conversation you'll have tomorrow. A grief that hasn't yet occurred. Dreams aren't fiction. They're reconnaissance missions. Memory from the future disguised as fantasy. Still, the rational world insists on boundaries. It says the arrow of time flows forward. Entropy increases. Cause precedes effect. But experiments keep bending those certainties. In laboratories, particles influence choices that haven't been made yet. Data collapses differently depending on measurements taken after the event. Retrocausality, the past responding to the future. Maybe consciousness works the same way. Maybe intuition is the emotional echo of outcomes that already exist. The ancients sensed this long before science. They spoke of prophecy not as prediction, but as memory. Mystics in every culture described visions of what has already happened, but not yet been seen. The Greek word for truth, aletheia, literally means the unhidden. To glimpse the future is not to defy time, it's to momentarily peel back its covering. The truth was always there, waiting to be remembered. But not all echoes are gentle. Some bleed through as haunting. The ghost you glimpse at the foot of your bed might not be a spirit from another world, but another moment of this one. The room retains the vibration of an emotion so intense it becomes visible, replaying like a scar in the structure. A tragedy imprinted on the coordinates, endlessly re-emitted. When you see it, you're witnessing resonance, history trembling against itself. Every place hums with such residues. Ancient battlefields, abandoned houses, hospitals. The walls hold vibrations of despair and devotion alike. You can feel them when you enter. The air heavy, the silence thick. It isn't superstition, it's physics. Energy doesn't vanish. Emotion is energy. The more powerful the feeling, the deeper its imprint in space-time. And sometimes, the echoes aren't from the past at all. They're from the future, calling backward. You sense an event before it occurs because, somewhere in the structure, it's already happening. Your awareness grazes that coordinate like a finger brushing the surface of glass. You don't know the future, you remember it in advance. And when it finally unfolds, you whisper, "I knew this would happen," because part of you did. Yet the mind can't live with that knowledge for long. It needs linearity to stay sane. So, it seals the cracks, restores the illusion, calls the bleed-throughs coincidence. And still, in quiet hours, the edges shimmer. Maybe that shimmer is mercy, a reminder that you are more than the slice of time you inhabit, that your awareness extends far beyond this single moment, touching countless others across the eternal sculpture. Maybe the universe allows the leaks so we don't forget where we truly are, inside an infinite pattern, glimpsing itself through dreams. So the next time you feel déjà vu, don't dismiss it. Pause. Listen. Perhaps another version of you is standing in that same moment, smiling faintly, recognizing the overlap. Perhaps time itself is waving, a brief acknowledgement between identical souls separated by perception. And when you dream something that later comes true, don't fear it. You didn't bend time, you simply looked sideways. The universe is not broken when it flickers, it's breathing. Those breaths are the spaces between eternities, the seams where awareness slips through. And in those spaces, the illusion of isolation fades. You are not a prisoner moving forward. You are an echo ringing through the corridors of forever. Humanity loves to imagine progress. We see history as an arrow, primitive to advanced, darkness to light. But what if civilization isn't moving at all? What if every empire, every invention, every apocalypse is already frozen into the fabric of space-time? A vast mosaic where the rise and fall of humanity exist together forever. From a distance, the human timeline looks like a heartbeat. Civilizations ignite, flare, collapse, repeat. Egypt still stands in one coordinate, its pyramids bright under the desert sun. Rome still burns in another, its ashes drifting through an unchanging sky. Somewhere, the last human city still glows against the dying red of the sun. And somewhere else, humanity hasn't even begun. We call that evolution, but to the universe, it's sculpture. Every triumph and extinction carved into a single unbroken monument. If the block universe is true, then our species never truly began and will never truly end. Every generation, from the first handprint on a cave wall to the last signal sent into the void, still exists. Frozen in the crystal of time, each moment is a facet of the same jewel. To us, the jewel sparkles with motion. To eternity, it is still. Picture the Earth as it spins through space. Right now, in another coordinate, dinosaurs still walk. In another, oceans boil beneath a newborn sky. In another, skyscrapers pierce a future already complete, all of it happening, not in sequence, but in simultaneity. The entire history of life on Earth is one eternal chord. We hear only one note at a time, and yet, we chase the illusion of forward momentum, progress, innovation, destiny. We build cities of glass and algorithms, telling ourselves we're moving closer to perfection. But if the future already exists, then the utopia we dream of is as real as the ruins that follow it. Somewhere the world you fear has already happened. Somewhere the world you hope for never will. Civilization, in the end, is not a journey. It's a pattern. Cosmologists tell us that one day the universe will fade into heat death, a silent sea of radiation, all stars extinguished, all motion dissolved. But if time is static, that future isn't waiting. It's already there. The last ember of consciousness flickers in a corner of space-time, preserved like every other instant. The end of everything is simply another room in the same infinite house. And somewhere else, the first spark of life still trembles beneath a warm tide pool. The beginning and the end touch each other, eternally. When we look into deep space, we are looking backward in time. The light from distant galaxies began its journey billions of years ago, but the photons have no sense of travel. For them, emission and arrival are the same event. In their experience, no time has passed, which means that the ancient universe we see isn't gone. It's simultaneous with us. Every era, every civilization, every consciousness coexists in a single, timeless panorama. Our telescopes are not time machines. They are mirrors reflecting different faces of eternity. If that is true, then even the civilizations we call extinct are not lost. Atlantis, whether myth or memory, still stands somewhere in the lattice. So do the first humans who learned to speak fire into stories, and the last who whispered goodbye into metal skies. Humanity's beginning and ending are adjacent petals of the same bloom. The universe never buried them. It displays them forever. But there's a paradox. If every civilization still exists, then why do we feel the weight of decay? Why does progress matter if it's already written? Maybe because consciousness can only illuminate one facet at a time. We can't see the full sculpture, so we mistake our reflection on it for movement. Progress is not advancement, it's revelation. Each generation doesn't create the new, it uncovers another layer of the already real. When humanity invented fire, electricity, or artificial intelligence, we didn't move forward. We simply uncovered coordinates that had always been there, waiting to be seen. Imagine a painting being slowly revealed beneath peeling layers of dust. Each stroke was always there, hidden, untouched. Our technology, our philosophy, our wars, our dreams, they are the gradual uncovering of what eternity already painted. That means the future isn't what we will build. It's what we will finally notice. But if everything is preserved, then so are our mistakes. Somewhere the bombs are still falling. Somewhere the forests are still burning. Somewhere the last coral reef glows faintly before dissolving into acid sea. These moments are as permanent as love songs. They don't end. They coexist. The apocalypse is not an event, it's a coordinate. And yet, the opposite is also true. Somewhere humans have transcended their limits. Somewhere peace holds. Somewhere the species that was once fractured has become something luminous. Maybe we've merged with machines, dissolved into light, woven consciousness into the very fabric of space. Maybe, in another corridor of space-time, we are already gods, and all the suffering that leads to that realization, every failure, every birth, every extinction, is a necessary symmetry. Civilization is a cosmic organism stretched across eternity. Its cells are moments, its heartbeat is awareness. We are not watching history unfold, we are watching it exist. Every empire, every age of darkness, every renaissance, all alive together in an unending architecture. To the universe, there is no past glory or future decline. There is only the infinite presence of what has always been. This vision strips humanity of its pride, but fills it with awe, because it means nothing is ever truly lost. Somewhere, Socrates still speaks. Somewhere, a child is still writing the first word. Somewhere, the last astronaut still drifts between galaxies, whispering into the static. All of it eternal. All of it happening now. But if every civilization persists forever, does meaning survive? If progress is illusion, why strive? Why build? Why dream? Because within the block, consciousness is the only sculptor that can feel. Meaning is not about changing the structure, it's about perceiving it. You cannot stop the fall of Rome, but you can stand inside that coordinate and marvel at what it means to fall. You cannot prevent the end of the world, but you can love something within it fiercely enough that eternity takes notice. And maybe that's the purpose of civilization itself, to create beauty that will exist forever, to carve kindness into the geometry of time, to remind the universe what it feels like to hope. Every poem, every invention, every act of mercy adds detail to the cosmic sculpture. When the last star fades, those details will remain, not glowing, but there, indestructible, the quiet proof that something inside eternity once cared. So, stand here, at the edge of time, and look back. See the entire arc of humanity at once. The first fire lit in trembling hands, the city lights glowing from orbit, the ruins half buried in alien dust. They are not chapters. They are organs of the same immortal body. And you are one cell among them, still pulsing. Perhaps civilization is not a failed experiment, but a completed one. Its success isn't survival, it's existence. Every tear shed for its loss, every monument raised in its name, every dream of a better tomorrow, all of it already complete, shimmering inside the crystal of space-time. And if the end is inevitable, let it also be holy, because somewhere, it is always beginning again. Somewhere the first spark still leaps between stone and tinder. Somewhere, a child still looks up at the night sky, unaware that stars die. Somewhere the universe is still teaching itself what it means to be alive. Civilization never really collapses, it simply becomes still, another pattern in the infinite museum of forever. If everything is fixed, how do you live? If every breath you take has already been taken, if every word you'll ever speak is carved into eternity, then what is the point of effort? What is the meaning of love, courage, or forgiveness? If all of it was destined to happen exactly this way, you could say that knowing the universe is frozen kills hope, that it drains life of its pulse. But perhaps it does the opposite. Perhaps it demands that you live with an honesty so unbearable, it becomes sacred. Because if nothing can be changed, then every act becomes infinitely significant. Not because it alters the story, but because it is the story. You are not editing the universe. You are revealing it. The idea of fate frightens us because it sounds like control lost. But control was always a myth. We never commanded the future. We only believed we did. And yet, that belief gives color to the stillness. It makes us weep, create, destroy, love. Without the illusion of freedom, eternity would be sterile. But what if meaning isn't found in freedom at all? What if meaning is found in recognition? The quiet realization that you are the expression of something vast and unchangeable, and yet utterly intimate. Imagine the universe as a symphony already composed, every note already written. You are not improvising your melody. You are performing it. And performance is not less sacred because the sheet music exists. It is sacred because it does. Each note, each hesitation, each trembling breath you take between decisions is part of the beauty. The song doesn't change, but the experience of hearing it still breaks your heart. So, How do you live inside a song that cannot be rewritten? You listen. You savor. You let the melody pass through you, knowing it will echo forever. You stop trying to win or fix or escape, and you start trying to see. The Stoics understood this long before physics did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." He accepted that the structure of the world was immovable, that all he could control was his alignment with it. To resist what is already carved is to grind yourself against eternity. To accept it is to flow through stone. Acceptance, though, is not apathy. It is participation. You don't stop caring because things are fixed. You care precisely because they are eternal. The kindness you show today will exist forever. The cruelty you commit will too. That is the true weight of choice in a timeless world. Not that it determines the future, but that it becomes immortal. In the block universe, morality transforms. Good and evil are not paths that lead to different destinations. They are sculptures within the same cathedral. You cannot escape your actions. You are your actions. To lie is to become the lie forever. To love is to become love itself. You don't travel toward redemption or ruin. You embody them. So, how do you live when you can't rewrite the story? You live as though you are the page, not the author, not the reader, but the ink itself. You stop searching for freedom and start searching for integrity. You begin to ask not, "What can I change?" but, "What am I revealing?" Every gesture, every silence, every decision uncovers another facet of what eternity made you to be. That is not resignation. That is awakening. Because once you see the architecture for what it is, you stop fighting the walls. You start noticing the design, the symmetry in your pain, the elegance in your mistakes. You begin to see how the heartbreak you thought would end you was always the doorway to something else, something that had already been waiting. Regret loses its poison because regret is only a misunderstanding of perspective. You're not mourning what could have been, you're mourning what was always meant to be. Look back at your life. Every pattern, every repetition, every person who reappears when you thought they were gone, it all feels scripted because it is. But that script is not mechanical. It's alive. It breathes through you. When you learn to see its patterns, you stop asking for control and start asking for clarity. Clarity changes everything. When you know the storm is part of the design, you stop cursing the rain. When you realize that loss and love are the same gesture seen from opposite sides of time, you start forgiving the world. Forgiveness becomes the only rational response to eternity. Still, the question burns. If the future already exists, why act at all? Why create, if creation cannot alter anything? Because action is not about consequence, it's about expression. A painter doesn't create to change the canvas. The canvas was always meant to hold that image. The act of painting is the universe experiencing itself through motion. Your life is that brushstroke. You don't act to modify reality. You act so reality can feel itself move. There's beauty in that futility, because it's not futile, it's art. To live well in a fixed universe is to treat each moment as sacred, precisely because it will echo forever. If every word you speak is eternal, choose your language carefully. If every touch remains, touch with kindness. If every thought is preserved, think with wonder. You are carving yourself into the face of eternity with everything you do. This awareness doesn't make life smaller, it makes it infinite. Because once you know nothing can be erased, you stop rushing. You stop looking for arrival points. You start dwelling fully in the frame you're in, knowing that frame will exist forever. You start living not for change, but for presence. And presence is not passive. It is the purest form of engagement. When you are fully present, you aren't fighting time. You are witnessing eternity through the keyhole of consciousness. That's what the mystics called enlightenment. Not an escape from time, but intimacy with it. In that intimacy, even suffering softens. Pain remains, yes, it always will, but it becomes luminous. Because now, you understand that every wound is a permanent star in your personal cosmos. Its light may hurt, but it also guides. And when you look closely, you realize something profound. You wouldn't want a universe without scars. Perfection without struggle would be meaningless geometry, form without heartbeat. Suffering gives eternity its pulse. So, how do you live if nothing can be changed? You live as though everything matters more than you can comprehend. Because it does. Every breath you take will exist for all of time. Every kindness will outlive galaxies. Every betrayal will echo long after stars are gone. You are engraving reality with your existence, moment by moment. The engraving cannot be undone, but it can be beautiful. And when you fail, as all humans do, remember that failure too is sacred. Even your darkest hour has a place in the design. The moment you break is also the moment you reveal your shape. Eternity is not cruel, it is precise. It wastes nothing. Maybe that's what love is, in the end. The recognition that nothing is wasted. That to hold another being, even for a second, is to touch something that will never stop existing. When you tell someone you love them, that declaration is permanent. It will echo forever in the structure of time, vibrating between coordinates where both of you still exist. You will never lose that moment. Even if you forget, the universe won't. So live not to change the future. Live to make the eternal more beautiful. Not because you must, but because you already are. Because somewhere, you are always alive. Somewhere, you are always forgiving. Somewhere, you are already free, not from the structure, but within it. Freedom, it turns out, was never about movement. It was about awareness. To see the pattern clearly enough that you stop resisting it. To realize that your stillness was never prison, but peace. And maybe, once you accept that, life becomes not a story to control, but an artwork to behold. And you, fragile, terrified, luminous you, are both the artist and the masterpiece. You were never moving. You were never passing through time. You were always here. Every version of you, every heartbeat, every breath, all folded into the same unmoving eternity. The journey was never from past to future. It was from blindness to sight. All your life, you've believed that moments die, that they come, burn brightly, then vanish into memory. But look closer. The evidence has always been there. The photographs that never age, the scent that suddenly resurrects a childhood. The way the moon tonight looks exactly like the moon of your first heartbreak. Time doesn't move. It reveals. Somewhere, the child version of you still watches sunlight dance on the floor. Somewhere, you are still learning to walk. Still touching fire for the first time. Still asking questions you don't have language for yet. And somewhere else, you are old. Lying in a bed, listening to your own breathing like waves retreating into themselves. All of these are you. All of them still happening. You never left any of them behind. The mind struggles with this because it's built for narrative. It needs beginnings and endings to hold meaning. But what if meaning doesn't come from the story's arc? What if it comes from the stillness that holds it together? The silent structure behind every act, every word, every heartbeat. You've spent your life running forward, believing that tomorrow will save you. But tomorrow is already written. The person who wakes up then already exists, just as surely as the one sitting here now. There is no salvation in the next chapter, only recognition in this one. And once you see that, something inside you stops running. You don't arrive anywhere. You realize you were always home. Look around. Everything you see is ancient. The light on your hands left the sun 8 minutes ago. The atoms in your bones were born in exploding stars billions of years before Earth had oceans. Every breath you take carries particles once breathed by dinosaurs, prophets, and strangers who haven't yet been born. You are not living in time. You are living as time. And when you die, you won't leave it. You will only cease to move across its surface. The final moment, the last blink, the last heartbeat, will not fade. It will remain forever in the cathedral of existence, alongside your first cry and your last word. Death is not deletion. It is preservation. Somewhere in space-time, your funeral is already over. Somewhere else, your birth is still a scream of wonder. Both exist simultaneously, side by side, two doors in the same endless hallway. You were never traveling from one to the other. You were always the hallway itself. We spend our lives terrified of endings. We cling to people, to places, to moments, hoping they won't dissolve, but they never do. They only drift beyond the reach of the light we call consciousness. Your mother's voice, the laughter of your friends, the quiet warmth of being understood. All of it still vibrates somewhere, unchanged. When you miss someone, you are feeling the distance between two coordinates that never stop touching. Even loss is illusion. You haven't lost anyone. You've simply turned away from the room they still occupy. And yet, the illusion of loss matters. It gives love its urgency, kindness its fire. Without the fear of ending, beauty would have no shape. So the universe hides eternity behind mortality, so that you will hold what you love more tightly, so that you will care, even when you know you cannot keep. That's the paradox of existence. We are eternal beings pretending to be temporary. We play at fragility so we can feel the sweetness of being alive. We act as though moments pass so that we can finally learn to treasure them. If you could see your entire life laid out, every memory, every mistake, every triumph, you'd see it forms a single unbroken figure, like a statue carved from light. Every pain is a curve, every joy is a line. Taken together, they form the only shape you could ever have been. Perfect, complete, irreversible. You don't need to change the shape, you only need to understand it. The universe doesn't make errors, it makes geometry. And you are one of its sacred equations. Written once, never rewritten. Always true. So, when you lie awake wondering if you've wasted your life, remember, waste is impossible here. Every hesitation, every detour, every wrong turn is part of the form. Even regret is built into the design. If you could zoom out far enough, you'd see that what felt like chaos was symmetry all along. The storm you ran from was sculpting you into something the universe needed to know. Maybe that's the real purpose of consciousness, not to change time, but to witness it, to give eternity a mirror in which to see itself. When you look at a sunset, it is not ending. It is showing you how light bends through stillness. When you fall in love, it is not new. It is the part of you from another coordinate recognizing itself again. When you weep, you are not breaking. You are releasing what was never separate from you. You never really leave anyone or anywhere. You are layered through all of it, like light through stained glass. Each color, each memory, each person you've touched adds hue to your pattern. The pattern never fades. It remains etched into the timeless structure that holds everything. And in that realization, fear loses its weight. Because how can you fear what has already happened? What is always happening? What will never stop happening? How can you fear disappearance when disappearance is just another coordinate? Perhaps heaven and hell were metaphors for geometry all along. Every act of cruelty you ever committed still exists, frozen, a wound in the lattice. Every act of love is there too, glowing. Eternity is impartial. It keeps both. Heaven is the resonance of your gentleness. Hell is the echo of your harm. You carry both within you, forever. And every time you choose kindness, you add light to the map. Every time you love, the universe brightens in a way that can never be undone. So, how should you live, knowing all this? Slowly, gently, with awe. Because every movement of your hand, every word from your mouth, every glance of your eyes will never stop existing. You are not passing through moments. You are leaving constellations behind you. Each decision becomes a star. Each memory, a galaxy. Eternity is made of the things you thought were small. Somewhere, your entire species still stands at the edge of discovery. Somewhere, the first human still lights a fire. Somewhere, the last human still looks out at the stars and smiles. It's all happening, right now, forever. And somewhere in that endless architecture, you are here, listening to these words, breathing, aware. That awareness is eternity recognizing itself. The universe looking into its own mirror and whispering, I am. And when this awareness fades, when your eyes close for the final time, don't be afraid. You are not falling into darkness. You are sinking back into yourself. The part of you that has watched since the beginning will continue watching. The observer does not die. It only changes the view. The truth is both terrifying and tender. You never leave. You never have. You never will. You are the still point in the turning world. You are the silence between two eternities. You are the breath the universe takes to remind itself it exists. And when all the stars go dark, when every echo fades, one thing will remain. You, as awareness, unbroken, infinite, and free. Not moving through time, but shining within it, forever.